Kia has released the pricing of the new EV9 in the United States and in Australia and in some places in Europe. Pricing is actually very similar for the US versus Australia. Many people are saying it's too expensive. The Kia EV9 is just too much. It's the most expensive Kia vehicle ever made. Now, while that may be true, saying it's expensive, in my opinion, is completely false. I'm going to explain why. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Thank you for your support this year. It's been an amazing year, and Kia certainly have brought out the goods. And when I say that, what I mean is the EV9 is probably the only mainstream, large, 7-seat, boxy, traditional SUV that can really compete with something like a Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, here in Australia, the Kia EV9 is actually cheaper than the Toyota Land Cruiser. And you might be saying, well, they're different cars. Well, they're not that different. Actually, their size, dimensions are almost identical. In fact, the Kia EV9's interior space is slightly bigger than that of the Toyota Land Cruiser. Now, while the base model EV9 doesn't get all-wheel drive, and of course the base model Land Cruiser does, if you option the EV9 with all-wheel drive, you're getting what would be a very capable SUV. It's got plenty of off-road clearance. It's got a lot of size on the inside of the car, and its specs and interior features are far better than a Toyota Land Cruiser's. Whilst, like I said, it's slightly cheaper. I don't think it's expensive when you consider that fact. I don't think people realize just how big this vehicle actually is. Now, I know a lot of people don't like big vehicles. They don't like big SUVs. They don't like the fact that people are going to buy them. People will buy them no matter what we do. So I think it's important to recognize when a product is good or bad, not necessarily because it's the kind of vehicle that we like. Kia Australia has released pricing for the lineup of the EV9 electric SUV in Australia. As expected, the 2024 Kia EV9 is the most expensive vehicle the Korean brand has ever sold in Australia. Prices range from $97,000 to $121,000 before on-road costs. But there's a catch here, and that is this. It comes with a big battery pack and it has bidirectional charging. This would be an amazing camping vehicle. I had a look at one of these vehicles in person at the Melbourne EV show, and I've got to say, I was very impressed by it. I think in the flesh, they look really, really good. This means the EV9 costs a similar price to the purely petrol gasoline-powered internal combustion engine Volvo XC90. But the EV9 is actually bigger than the XC90. That vehicle can come in a mild hybrid version. There's also a plug-in hybrid version. Price of that one, though, is actually even more expensive. It ranges from 101,000 Australian dollars to 129,000. Personally, if I were to choose between Kia EV9 or the Volvo XC90, I'm definitely going to go with this EV9. In fact, the EV9 I think is a great car, and I highly recommend it to anyone looking in this segment. If you're looking for a 7-seat electric vehicle, you're looking for an off-road style vehicle, looking for a boxy SUV, something with a lot of size in the inside, this is really the only car right now hitting this segment. Now, will the Chinese come out and flood this segment with vehicles at some point? They will at some point, but they don't really have anything right now. China isn't actually making anything comparable to this. If you know of a vehicle that they're making that is actually these dimensions, don't let us know on vehicles that are not these dimensions. But if you know of one that is, let us know what it is, because I don't think there is anything that really meets up to the EV9. Will there be in the future at some point? Yes. Is there right now? Actually, there is, but BYD make it and sell it for 151,000 US dollars, meaning around 240,000 Australian dollars. So, as you can see, this is in a category all by itself. The base Air is the single motor rear-wheel drive. The Earth model and GT line are dual motor. So the base model, the model that you're paying the least amount of money for, in my opinion, is the worst deal. It's rear-wheel drive only, and it gets a much smaller battery pack. Rear-wheel drive version gets a 76 kilowatt hour battery pack. I don't think that's big enough for a car this size. And the all-wheel drive version gets a 99.8 kilowatt hour pack, which I think is very suitable. Global specifications say that the rear-wheel drive model has 150 kilowatts and 350 newton meters of torque. That's around about 210 horsepower. And it will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 0 to 62 miles an hour in 8.2 seconds. Range is a little disappointing, 418 kilometers. That's on the WLTP cycle. The dual motor model gets, here's the thing, right? It gets a lot of power and torque. I think if you really look at it, it's actually pretty impressive. It gets 283 kilowatt, nearly 400 horsepower, and 600 newton meters of torque. You can, though, pay a little bit extra to increase the torque from 600 newton meters to 700. 0 to 100 takes 5.3 seconds. However, it gives a lot more range as well. 497, so let's just call it 500 kilometers of WLTP range. Personally, considering this vehicle has 350 kilowatt charging, I think that's enough range. Its 800 volt architecture is obviously very efficient. Kia and Hyundai EVs are actually quite efficient, and they have vehicle to load as well, which would be awesome for camping. You could run your house on this if you needed to. In addition to that, you can plug in household appliances into the 3.6 kilowatt 3-pin socket. So if you needed to, you got no power at home, or if you're on a caravan site, etc., there's plenty of power you can send back out from this battery pack to whatever devices you need to run. So 350 kilowatt charging, 500 kilometers of range, a lot of power and torque. You can see why I think this car is actually pretty good. Charging speeds are estimated to be 25 to 30 minutes to go from 10 to 80% charge. Now, of course, you need the right chargers. Tesla's opening up its charging network, but not all Tesla chargers are open. That's definitely something you've got to consider here. As with other models that Kia sell, the EV9 is getting a specific Australian tune. So they're going to make the suspension, the handling very specific to what they think Australian roads need. Are they doing that in the United States? I don't think so. As far as I can tell, the US version of the EV9 is the same version they currently sell in South Korea. What about the actual ADAS systems? What about the actual technology? Well, it's pretty good. It comes with Highway Driving Assist 2.0, which is level 2 autonomous driving features. Now, how well do they work? I don't really know yet. The car hasn't been revealed. However, that does combine adaptive cruise with stop and go, lane following assist, and a lane change assist function. The latter automatically steers the vehicle to the next lane after you turn on the indicator. A hands-on detection sensor detects if you don't take your hands on the wheel, off the wheel. A hands-on detection sensor is able to detect if you don't have your hands on the wheel while you're using that system, and it will alert you and deactivate the system. So unfortunately, it's not a hands-free system. Australian spec EV9s unfortunately don't get what you guys in the US get, which is highway driving pilot level 3 autonomous driving. That allows for actual hands-free driving on some roads. The reason? Australian regulations. The EV9 also comes with Kia's new infotainment and telematics system, developed in-house. It's called the Connected Car Navigation Cockpit. It supports over-the-air updates as well as wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, one thing I noticed with the EV9, it does have a frunk. Not a very big one, but it's still a frunk, so you can fit stuff in the front as well. The EV9 is likely to be the first model Kia sold in Australia with digital side mirrors. If that is the case, it will probably get more range, because if you fold in your side mirrors, or if you have no side mirrors at all, it does improve your range by at least a few percent. The 2024 EV9 measures in at just over 5 meters long. It's 5,010 millimeters, 1,755 millimeters tall, 1,980 millimeters wide, and it has a 3.1 meter wheelbase. Therefore, it is considered an upper large SUV. Its dimensions are very, very similar to the Toyota Land Cruiser 300 series. Now, getting back to that actual pricing, just to confirm what the pricing is, the EV9 base model, EV9 Air rear-wheel drive, $97,000. Now, I personally think that model is not that good of a deal. The mid-spec model is where the value is. All-wheel drive, right? The all-wheel drive model, 106,500 Australian dollars. So that's around about 70,000 US dollars. That one gets the 100 kilowatt, or basically 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, and it comes with 2 motors. That is unquestionably the best value model out of the lineup. But the most expensive model costs 121,000 Australian dollars, and it is a GT line. It's going to give you some more luxury features, things like a panoramic sunroof and probably leather seats, those kinds of features. What are your thoughts on this, guys? Do you agree with me that this isn't as overpriced as what a lot of people are claiming, or do you think it's just too expensive? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.